Hi there. Welcome to the presentation about our Interrupting Injustice project for Christian ethics. Really quickly, as an introduction, this presentation was written before. I've modified it slightly for the class, but for the most part, it is the same as what Erien Babcock and I created for a class at Star King for adult faith development, as it's titled. Let's go on to the next slide. All right, so as we go through the deck, there's going to be some online resources that I might refer you to. You can see here we have a YouTube channel. You can click on that in the actual deck that I will post or send. Additionally, we created two new videos here, one titled Pete Seeger and the American Coal Miner that Erien recorded, and Washington Gladden, Social Gospel and Labor Rights, about a UCC pastor from the mid 1800s through the early 1900s, which was the point of interrupting injustice. For the purposes of the class, was creating some videos about the labor movement. And we're going to continue on with that, but for the purposes of getting this done and graduating, um, we made two. So there's also some older videos here you can go check out on a variety of topics. That kind of they're early videos. We do some other things now too, besides these history videos. But you can check out kind of the range of what we do at the YouTube channel. All right. So who are we in regards to this project? Erien Babcock, now Reverend Dr. Erien Babcock. She already had a PhD, but is now ordained. At the time we wrote this, was a future theologian and future military chaplain, and is now an ordained minister, but and a theologian, but is not a military chaplain yet, but is working on it. Erien is a Star Wars nerd, is a super gamer with actual streaming experience, a writer, a researcher, and a video editor. Who am I? I'm a parent of two older kids. Erien is a parent as well. Her kids are about the same age as my older kids, and I have a little kid named James Tamoji, who has attended Star King with me for my entire time at Star King, and is familiar on Zoom to many of my students, my professors and other students. Um, we actually wrote each other's, I think is how we did this. It was a couple of years ago, and she wrote future theologian, minister, and chaplain. Who knows what combination of that will end up being my path. Also writer, editor, researcher, and shaper of timelines for the channel. Um, sure. Okay, so what is this project? We developed a project around the project for the class, knowing that we had a big project due in this adult faith formation class. We asked the professor in June before the fall semester if we could do this particular project. And the reason why is we knew we wanted to do a lot of work on it. And we knew it was going to take time to put it together and build the pedagogy for this project. And we didn't want to wait until the class started and then have to reinvent it. Plus, we wanted to do it anyways, and we figured we would just get started. The basis of the idea was these are 3-minute videos that outline significant people, places, and theological moments originally in Unitarian Universalist history. Obviously, from the second video that I pointed out on the previous page, Washington Gladden was a Congregationalist minister post-split, so would be considered an ancestor of United Church of Christ now, not Unitarian Universalism. The videos are designed specifically as YouTube content. That's our desired channel because it's free. Vimeo is another channel you can use, but it costs money to have a channel there. And the point of this was to counter oppressions. It was one of the original, well, there we go in the fourth bullet, but we'll get there. But YouTube's free. Um, so outside of the videos, we also wanted to create a process, not just make videos, but come up with a way in which churches or people can create videos as well and try to demonstrate that it's an easy process to kind of Well, to make it easy for anyone to do. And so it isn't like you have to look at this project and say, oh, how much did they invest to be able to record this? The answer is almost nothing. We have videos on our channel that are made with cell phones for the YouTube Shorts program, where I just went walking on the bike path near my house and recorded myself telling a story, commenting on Labor Day, that sort of thing. So, and the truth is, you can make videos that are every bit the quality of any other video you might see on YouTube with a cell phone. And so, since cell phones are essentially ubiquitous, and we'll get to that later, the idea was anyone can create videos for their church or for themselves without too much trouble. We also focused on specifically anti-oppressive learning strategies as we thought about a pedagogy, because we wanted to make sure that this concept would work outside of what is a normal UU or any other church setting, meaning that, well, a lot of what we talk about on the channel would be appropriate for a religious education class, like, or a small group ministry class, chalice circle, that sort of thing. Many people can't participate in those because of a variety of reasons, and so given Star King's you know centering of the program, educating to counter oppression, we wanted to create a learning modality that was anti-oppressive in basically all aspects of its creation and actual execution. So a question to consider is, how could your congregation use YouTube in an adult faith development setting? You can think about that as we go through this. You can also use it for youth faith development, for different aspects of any religious education program, regardless of age, but specifically for this project, we were focused on adult faith development. So why this project? And we have a question to consider here. When is the last time you searched Unitarian Universalism or whatever your faith is on YouTube, and what did you find? And if you haven't done it, it's a very interesting exercise, because you actually see what people are doing with regards to whatever your particular denomination is. In our case, the need is there. Nobody to this point had done a what we called a thorough historical survey of our particular denomination, and what was or is out there outside of a few examples, and there's more now that we've started doing this. There's some other people doing very short form video as well. A lot of it is, to put it mildly, um, time consuming to view, where it is a, I think, extended length historical sermon on any particular topic, where you may have to spend 30 minutes to an hour listening to a particular piece of history. There's a few that are in kind of a middle ground. We really wanted to hold ourselves to videos that were under 5 minutes. Specifically, the target is 3 minutes. They range anywhere from like 2 minutes and 30 seconds up to 5, but we'll get to more on that later. We also wanted to democratize UU history and make it accessible to essentially anyone who has access to video. And since cell phones are ubiquitous, YouTube is free. You can go on YouTube, search on particular topics, and our hope is that we've made a video about it. We also want to motivate UU churches, but also other denominations and organizations, with an easy kind of how-to way of doing this, so that other people can start to produce videos. And we actually have seen some of that, and our hope is that maybe we had a small piece in getting some more short form videos that are a little bit easier to watch and are more accessible to people who don't have time to sit there and take in an hour-long video. Erien has expertise in video production. I have learned more about it. I had a little bit, but Erien was way better at it than I was when we started this. And so we already knew we had someone on the team who could take the lead on that to start. I've written scripts before, and so the idea of sitting down and writing something for viewing, um, I wasn't afraid to do that, and so we had video and script writing taken care of. We also wanted to create a fun process, not just one that dragged us down with an overwhelming amount of work. Um, we also wanted to do a real world project, not a theoretical project. We wanted to create the YouTube channel, and we did create the YouTube channel. And finally, the reason for this project was it met the needs of the class assignment, simply put. All right, let's see. Okay, some learning theories. These are the theories that support our video project. They were specific to the class using the textbooks that were in the class. I can provide what textbooks those are separately. I don't remember if there's a bibliography at the end of this. For the purposes of the class, everyone knew what textbooks they were because we were all using the same textbooks. So we gravitated towards non-oppressive learning modalities. As we went through the various texts, we focused on analyzing each learning modality for whether or not it met the counter-oppressive needs of Star King's ECO program, Educating into Counter-Oppression. So we started with self-directed learning. Scanning SDL is the idea that people will scan whatever learning materials they have available. In this case, it would be YouTube. Um, and the idea is that people look through things and gravitate towards what they want to learn. And on YouTube, this is the existing natural process of search. And so there's a built-in mechanism on YouTube that already supports scanning SDL. The other thing is in the book, this methodology is supported across diverse social groups. So it isn't specific to any one group. It doesn't hold out any groups. It is one way that people learn. The second one was McCluskey's theory of margin. And the idea with this is that by using bite-sized learning, it gives people who don't have time for more traditional ways of learning the ability to participate in this democratization of, in this case, Unitarian Universalist history. The thing that we had observed is that when you are in a religious education class, it is the people who have time, the luxury of time, who generally participate in those. And so if you are somebody who has to work more than one job, if you are somebody who maybe doesn't have a car and has to commute on public transportation, the idea that you can show up for a class is overwhelming. So the concept of the theory of margin is that with less load, you have more personal power to take on the things you want to take on. And the way that this reduces load is by creating learning in bite-sized chunks. Online learning is a modern modality for modern times. You know, online access is not truly ubiquitous. We know that. But the COVID pandemic, for better or for worse, has encouraged some adoption of this through schooling. Because everyone who's in school, who's a child, essentially we've been working, we being the society as a whole, has been working to get people online access so that children don't have to go to coffee shops or McDonald's to get access to the internet. So it's growing, but true like home internet access is in fact not ubiquitous, but is getting there. And specifically, if you live in rural areas, we do acknowledge that internet access can be slower and not as available. One thing that we would want to point out, though, is that smartphones, as of 2019, so 2 years ago, were at 81% adoption rate in the U.S. So 81% of everyone who is, I assume, I think this was adults, if I recall correctly, 81% of U.S. adults have smartphones, which means 4 out of every 5 people actually have access to the internet, because smartphones are connected. So you could use this project on your smartphone. Um, so a downside to online learning is it is effective, but retention can be problematic. So students in online conditions, according to the U.S. Department of Education, perform mostly better on average than those learning the same material through traditional face-to-face instruction. Um, it is part, and then the retention issue is part of why we did short-form video. Um, so we also used motivation theory in terms of we want to consider why people learn, and create different videos that address why someone might want to learn. And we also include social motivation and community interactions in this, in that we wanted to create accessible videos that people could essentially remember, and then um, we were hoping for social motivation within particular church communities. I don't know if that's happened or not. I would argue that to some extent it has. I would say we haven't cracked the code yet, though, to how to get people to comment and truly interact with the channel yet. We have a fair number of subscribers, but I would say community interaction is a weak point for the channel at this point. Oh, this is actually a like a workshop page that we did with the class when we presented it. If you're listening to this and you want to think about, um, you know, kind of what we were shooting for with, the anti-oppressive nature of what we were doing, the questions we would say you could ask yourself about various projects that you're working on. Is the anti-oppressive nature of what you're doing intentional? Is it accessible to people? And is it sustainable both for the viewer and for you as the creator of whatever it is that you're doing? All right, first steps in brand development. This is how we did what we did. And I talked about it a little bit before, but basically we took the summer before the fall semester, during which this was created. I want to say it was 20 fall of 2020. It was. Sorry about that. I had to take a moment. I'm on pandemic time, I guess. Um, and so we took that summer to essentially sketch out what we were going to do. Oh, and here's the book that we use. So I recommend this book if you're looking for an adult faith formation pedagogy book that can really teach you a lot. We used Adult Learning, Linking Theory and Practice, and I think I bought it used on, I don't know, Amazon or Thrift Books or something. Um, so here's the pre-semester discussions. We were talking about video topics. We were talking about the pedagogy and learning methodologies. We basically had the whole thing kind of ready to go when the semester started, with the approval of the teacher. Each one of us took a proposed first episode, kind of our first two episodes that we wanted to do as like as practice for whether or not this would work and something we could present to the class fairly early in the process. I focused on the merger between Unitarianism and Universalism, and it was going to be a historical piece, and it focused on about a 30-year time span. Erien created a biography, and we have a lot of biographies on there. They are historical pieces as well, and she focused on John Murray, who was the first Universalist chaplain in the Continental Army. His commission via George Washington actually predated the formation of the country. Okay, so creating the brand. 3 minutes in UU history. Now we also have 3 minutes in UCC history. It's the second video on that list at the beginning of the slideshow. Was an aptonym that we created when Erien asked we should create a digestible UU history lessons of about 3 minutes in length, and I said let's call it 3 minutes in UU history, and there it was. It was that simple. The logo development, we based it on a set of known best practices for the channel that we were creating for YouTube. Pro level art to give it credibility. Um, Animation and 3D look as best practice as well. If you look at successful YouTube channels, they often have that. We're not saying this is a rule, but we wanted to kind of have the channel put its best foot forward going into it. We used UUA design guidelines. We actually went and got their color specifications. We used gray, magenta, and black, and they actually match the color specs that the UUA puts out. That's the Unitarian Universalist Association. And we have a matching outro clip. And so if you look at the Pete Seeger video that Erien just created for the purposes of the Christian ethics class, which I know is strange because I'm the one taking the class, but part of the distributed nature of what we do and making this sustainable is that other people can create videos similar to our own, whatever idea we have. And when I came up with a labor rights video, Erien said she wanted to do Pete Seeger and the coal miners and some of his songs and talk about them and his role in it. And she just did it. And I did something different. And we ended up with two very different videos about two very different people in two different denominations, actually. And so, I don't know where I was going with that, but anyways, we also chose I called it here, a funky font, Peralta. We have this, we wanted to keep it light. We didn't want it to look, like we were trying to be very serious. You can see in the description there, offbeat nature, delightfully comic typeface. The Peralta typeface is an Egyptian slab serif gone haywire. So, some of what we do is irreverent in terms of the history that we present. And we felt like having a font that kind of showed we didn't take ourselves too seriously was important. We kept in this the chalice logo as presented by the Unitarian Universalist Association. We reinvented it and kind of made it our own by uh, using the magenta color that is approved, but they don't color the chalice that. We made it in our logo the magenta hue. We put limited edition simply to imply that it won't be forever and create a sense of urgency, a little marketing thing. But the truth is it's not limited edition. It just looked cool. Okay, brand appropriate topics. The question during project, what do we want to do? And we had we had many discussions around editorial viewpoint. We basically, the debate came down to, did we want a neutral academic position all the time versus a satirical, smart alecky tone all of the time? We actually decided initially on a neutral tone, but creating humor through the video editing and inserting like video clips and different kind of jokes that way. I would say we didn't end up doing that at all. I would say we aren't neutral. I'd say we take all different kinds of tonality with regards to various topics. If it's a topic where we feel like we have to present some honest truths, we do so. If it's something that we think is funny, I point you towards the video in the list at the beginning entitled Joseph Priestley and the Invention of Oxygen. That's a silly video, and we have very serious videos where we address very challenging topics in Unitarian Universalism and other denominations that are totally serious. And we have explicit points of view, and we state them. And so we didn't keep the neutral tone, and that's okay. The channel evolved as we created videos and we decided what we wanted to do. We did decide that the topics were not going to be explicitly transgressive in terms of beating UUs over the head with whatever it was. We wanted it to be accessible and not feel like we were lecturing or waving the naughty finger. Our hope, though, was that people would think about the topics and that transformative learning would be a byproduct, that they would come away from it with a changed point of view, not because we told them they had to change their view, but because the learning encouraged that. Topics were going to focus initially on historical events, concepts from Unitarian Universalism, people, and theology. And I think we have actually done that and probably expanded it beyond that. Um, we decided that the videos are not editorial pieces or opinion pieces delivered by pundits. Some of our ideas, and we actually have, I think, only recorded one of the following three ideas. Um, but our ideas were Thomas Jefferson, UU hero and slave owner, which is actually something we still talk about making, and we actually have a, well, we'll see if it comes out or not. Another one would be Unitarian Universalism and its history of gadflies. There is a certain wing of Unitarian Universalism in which people are challenge the status quo, seemingly for the purposes of challenging the status quo, and telling a history of that and its modern evolution in current times we think would be fascinating, and we just haven't done it yet. And you know um, you tell a group of people they're being gadflies, they might just come back at you. We did make a series of videos on the Black empowerment tragedy, as it is suggested that the Black empowerment controversy could be renamed. It's a piece of UU history that is not particularly well thought of in many circles, from the late 60s and early 70s. You can watch videos. We've got them on the channel about it. Um, so there you go. That one was kind of heavy. Question to consider. What could your congregation do with a YouTube video series? Topic choice and scheduling. Here's what we started doing at the beginning, although we've kind of gone to an ad hoc, let's just create some videos. We create a bunch, we publish them on a weekly basis, and off we go. We numbered them so that we could find them. We created a launch date schedule. Originally, we were holding to dates on Mondays at a certain time, and you can see we did a bunch. Some of those are in that initial list at the beginning of the presentation. This is basically what was interesting to us. We chose what we wanted to do, and we did it because if we were enthused, if one of us was enthused about something, um, we would just do it. Some of the scripts are co-written, some are not. Um, we play it by ear. We wanted things that informed about interesting parts of UU history. The videos may be transgressive, as I said before, but not explicitly so. There's no order of importance. We did the merger first because that's kind of the beginning of Unitarian Universalism. If you didn't know that, it was coming together of two different denominations. Uh, and so, we make the videos as we are so moved. We've been a little lax lately in this Monday launch schedule, but we're trying to get back to that. Okay, I was just talking about this, so we can go quickly through this slide. Launch one video a week. The goal is two. We actually have multiple video series now, and there was a period of time where we were on a schedule, but Erien's ordination and my graduation and getting through this last semester took precedence over it. So we've kind of been a little bit on hiatus, trying to focus on taking care of the things we needed to take care of so that we can continue to do this work. Yeah, and like I said, the future goal is to launch 2 episodes per week and to really build it up, but we wanted to have a bank of episodes already kind of ready to go and scheduled to go before we started to try to do more. And we essentially have done that. Video design. Why an 8-second or so intro where we describe what's coming in the video? Best practice on YouTube. There's been studies that find that a short intro gets people involved. Again, we debate whether or not our graphical introduction is too long. I think it could be shortened. It is what it is. We've left it. I don't know. It's debatable. I guess we could do some experiments to find out. Why a 3-minute length? 2 to 3 minutes is the amount of time that most videos are watched. We wanted to try to get people through our videos. Some videos we do, some videos we don't. You'll find out if you do this sort of project that the same thing happens. Why one per week? YouTube does reward a scheduled timeline, and it took us, and there's a number of videos, it's between 25 and 35, where YouTube, once you've done this 25 to 35 times, YouTube will start to push your videos more because they realize, oh, they're serious about producing content. We had our first initial kind of viral by very small standards video at 25 videos, and at 35 YouTube started pushing them a lot, and our views and subscriber base started to climb. Why serious logo animation? I think we just discussed that earlier. That's what we decided to do to make it look like we were serious about what we were doing. And different styles of presentation. It's the nature of having different people do videos. Erien and I tell stories very differently, and that's why they're different. We've had one other person on the channel. Yeah, we've only had one other person on the channel. Yeah, and his style different than either of ours. So we don't really think about our style of presentation. We just do it. Our long-term goal is we'd like guests to come on the channel and to find narrators to do some cool stuff where they basically tell their thing and we animate it and put in like interesting photos of it. We actually haven't done that. I think we found the kind of storytelling way of doing this to work pretty well for us, but we have a couple of examples there. I'll go to the second one, like the Star King Professor of History, Professor Richardson might tell a story of the change from congregational mainstream Christianity to early Unitarian Christianity. She'd be perfect for that, but hasn't done it yet. So let's see. What actually happened when we started to do this? It took us a lot longer to produce videos than we thought it would. We had a lot of fear of the process, like how long is it going to take me? I don't have a lot of time. It feels like if I start, I'm going to have to spend, 10 hours researching, and I'm going to have to write this script. It turns out, once we got doing it, we produced the first two videos, like I said before, the merger video and the John Murray video. Each one took about 2 hours to do. Writing the script. Erien had already done a lot of research on John Murray, written, I think, a sermon on it, and I was familiar with the merger, so it was pretty easy to do that one with a little bit of extra research. And after we did those first two, it takes maybe an hour a video at the most. Usually I think 45 minutes or so if we're familiar with the history. If we're totally unfamiliar with the history, it might take a little bit longer. The other thing that happened was we realized it was fun. So then we started cranking out videos. It became like a thing, like we were not competing, but kind of competing. Like I got a video done. Oh, I got a video done. I got two, so on and so forth. That's the end of the presentation. That's the reason for doing this channel, to create a to summarize, to create a counter-oppressive way of delivering educational materials in a Unitarian Universalist or other denominational setting for people who may not have time to participate in a weekly or bi-weekly or monthly class that requires, studying outside of class, buying books, having tons of time to commute to and from church, to sit there for an hour or two, to devote the time, to promise you can do it for a whole year, whatever it is. That was the goal, was to keep this as accessible as possible to as many people as possible, and to remove barriers that stop people from learning about the denomination that they're a part of. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. Please reach out to me. I don't think I said at the beginning. Oh, I did in the biography. Well, I'm Erik. Reach out to me if you have any questions. And we're posting this to the channel, so just send the channel a comment on this video. Oh, and don't forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the alerts button too, so that you can find out when we publish a new video, because this is the kind of thing you say when you're on YouTube. All right, thanks a lot for listening. Bye.